Okay, good afternoon, everybody, especially Marylanders. I understand there's a difficult time for a lot of people, and especially new gun owners who are finding out that a lot of things that they believed as far as purchasing a gun is easy as just, grocery shopping, and it's not being the case. And on top of that, when we are talking about handguns in this case, um, you find out that there is a permit and you go through a lot, probably more than many other states, especially West Virginia, because there's a permit to purchase and then you find out that you can't carry it. Then you figure out what can you do in order to get that carry permit in the state of Maryland. Now, if you want to know the process, I have another video for that. This video, I'm going to try to keep this brief but detailed as possible. And that way I can answer any questions, individual questions in the comment section. Now, now, if you do not know by now, Maryland is a may issue state. So there are by about four different types of issue, or maybe five, I would say. There is shall issue, which is if you pass all the, if you're not a convicted, felon or whatnot, if you pass all of their requirements, then you shall be issued the permit in the state, like Pennsylvania, South Carolina, North Carolina. Then there is may issue. If you are, if you follow, if you pass all of the necessary requirements, then there is an additional requirement is that you have to prove a need to the state. And this is how the state of Maryland works. And then they may issue a permit or deny you. Then there's also a couple of other categories, such as constitutional carry, which is you do not need a permit in order to carry. So if you go to West Virginia, if you have a pistol, you may carry it how you see fit, uh, as long as you're not brandishing, obviously. But you may carry it how you see fit, and you do not need a permit. Then there is does not issue, and there's only one state that does that, and it's Vermont in a special constitutional carry case because they have never issued permits as their constitution has been akin to the original constitution that was created. And then there is no issue, and really there is only one state that is a pseudo or de facto no issue, and then you can actually count New Jersey as a second, and that is Hawaii because they have not issued permits within the last 20 years. I will probably make another video right behind this talking about where we stand as far as Maryland becoming a shall issue state, but this one is going to be specifically about the categories. Okay, so there are about 13 categories of which Maryland may issue a permit or usually issues permits under. And there are only about three categories that have unrestricted permits. And that does not include any restricts, any prohibitions that are by state laws, such as airports, what is probably public schools. Those are federal too, but Maryland has a prohibition on rest stops, so you cannot carry even if you have a permit to carry within a rest stop in Maryland, unfortunately. So the first category I will, first of all, let me go into what is good and substantial reason. Now, this is the website that they have on the definition that they have on the website. Has a good and substantial reason to wear, carry, transport a handgun, such as finding that the permit is necessary as a reasonable precaution against danger. What does that mean? And I will be the first, if not the last, one to tell you is that not even the police know that are making these decisions at time. It is a very few small group of people that are making these decisions. And please understand this. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is the amount, the leniency that Maryland will grant permits is also determined by who is the governor. So because we have currently a Republican governor, um, they have been more lenient, as far as more beneficial as far as granting permits out to people who actually probably genuinely fall under their categories. But when the previous superintendent was in there, he basically made testimony to the committee saying that Martin O'Malley told him they're going to be he wants them to issue as few permits as possible, and the politicians will threaten to relocate officers, move them into a bad district away from their family. So they are under pressure. And as well as the handgun permit review board, that I believe that got abolished recently, because that's what happens when the left is losing in certain regards. They have to change the rules around in order for them to win. But I digress on that. So, anyways, to not dove into what good and substantial means, and that they're actually lying to the Supreme Court right now, saying that it's subjective when it's really objective. The first category is going to be self protection. Do not confuse this with self defense. Self protection is that something has to happen to you of apprehensible or apprehended danger. So you must be threatened, and or you must be something must happen and they must be arrested, or there has to be police reports. Now let me give you some examples, because not everybody that has something happen to them will get the permit. Now if you are, let's say, if you are mugged on the side of Bentlow Street, and basically they have 90 days to be able to issue you a permit to approve you or deny you. And they're going to look at one thing, they're going to look at first: do you have a police report filed? If yes, then you're more likely to get it. Now they're going to also look at who was the person. Did that person know you? Did that person target you? If that person, was out for you, if that's a yes, then you will probably get that permit if you can prove it. Also, they're going to look and see, is the threat more likely to come back after or in between those 90-day period. And if the answer is no, if it was just a random mugging, then they probably will not give you the permit. It just depends. Now, one case I know that received a permit is that there was a guy that had an in-law that broke into his house, started a ruckus. I mean, they broke down the door, and it was like a huge fight, and called the police. He was arrested, and you know how the state of Maryland loves to release criminals and sex offenders, all that stuff, very early. So the state of Maryland gave him the permit, and that did not. I think he challenged that. I want to say it was Woolard, but anyways, even if you are to get a permit under self defense or any of these other ones, any other clauses, you still have to satisfy that good and substantial reason. So he did not get that permit renewed because they did not allow him to renew it, because they said the threat is over, that he doesn't need it anymore. And your first license is good for 2 years. It ends on the last day of the month of your birth month, and then it's then good for 3 years then on. Um, so that's it for the first clause of self protection. The second clause, which the most messed up one, is assume risk profession, which is basically a fancy or a code word for the rich and powerful. Your cops are going to be able to carry under this. Your business owners, your politicians, and politicians not even technically authorized to carry under Code of Maryland regulations, or whatever they call it, COMAR. They just snuck that in there because they're gonna have to make the laws. They know the laws are strict, but they're not gonna make them strict for themselves. So, anyways, that's assume risk profession. And then there is number three, and number three is going to be business owners. Now, one thing people don't realize about business owners is that this just happened recently, because there was a business owner that was falsely accused of carrying while in his restrictions. And basically, they will put a restriction on your license saying can only carry while conducting business for such and such company. That's when your license is only valid. Now, realize this. I haven't heard of them usually doing that, but Maryland State Police reserves the right to restrict your license the time of day. So if they can restrict it to carrying between 8 p.m. and 7:59 a.m. or whatnot. They can restrict the the time, the place. I think everything except whether you want to open carry or not. So that's like the manner. I've not heard them putting a restriction on that, but people don't usually open carry in the state of Maryland. Anyways, next thing is is basically he was falsely accused, and what happens is that he was pulled over. He told the cop he was carrying, sold him his permit, and the cop did not believe him. And it's a vague thing. They how are they supposed to know if you're conducting business or not? And plus, he's a business owner. So, anyways, Maryland State Police was pulling their hair out, and they basically dropped the restrictions for business owners specifically. And the attorney general, U.S. Attorney General Brian Frost, basically got pissed off and said that he didn't want that to happen. He wants them to be in danger, and only carry for the time of when they're working. But the cops basically said in the letter that they still want them to carry while only conducting business. So I believe if you abuse it, or if they were to catch somebody abusing it, they'll just take your permit. They'll revoke your permit. They won't just give you that 3 years jail time and ruin your life like they will for everybody else. Because for any other category, it's either going to be restricted or you're going to be denied the permit. So security guards will be issued a permit on a shall issue basis because it will be restricted, but you have to apply to that company first and be authorized under that company of which you want to carry. There's also business employees, so they're restricted to that business. There's also how you say private investigators and a few other ones, but they're mainly restricted. Those are the only three ones. So self protection, assume risk profession, and business owner. And if you do not fall under those three categories, you might not get it. Now, to understand how they cleverly make this discriminatory, is that first of all, they make you're gonna if you don't have the HQL, if you don't own a handgun, if you don't have your permit, and we're just talking about mainly Marylanders, you're gonna be paying upwards of $450 start to finish to be able to exercise one right to keep and bear arms, as far as pistols in the state of Maryland goes. And they do this purposely in order for you to in order to exclude a lot of the population of the poverty. They do not want the poor people to be able to protect themselves, especially blacks. That's how it goes in the state of Maryland. It is what it is because purchase permits was actually a relic of Jim Crow laws, and carry permits actually are a relic of post-slavery time because they didn't want these people carrying. You know how that goes. Um, um, that's just the state of Maryland for you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please address it in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer them. I believe I made a video earlier in my car while I was driving, but I'll probably make this one updated. Who is worthy and who is not worthy of receiving a Maryland permit? I'll be making another video talking about where do we stand about the possibility or probability, I want to say, of Maryland becoming a shall issue state this year. I believe it's hopeful, but it's a long shot. But I believe what's going to happen in the making. Just looking at the trends and looking at the broad picture that nobody else has been pointing out. I will make a separate video for that. And thank you and have a good one. Bye.